Blech. Let's talk about Halloween. Yeah, that's right, man. I revisited Rob Zombie's Halloween from 2007. I gave it 3.5 stars on Letterboxd. The synopsis: Evil has a destiny, which is actually a pretty good description of what this is, I think. The early years of a young Michael Myers and the events leading up to his fateful Halloween night murder rampage in the quiet town of Haddonfield, Illinois. So this film does not feel like, in the original Halloween film, yeah, we could really go all over the board with talking about this film. In the original, first and foremost, Halloween, I guess I should start by saying this, and this will kind of also sort of flow right into Halloween 2, because I watched that next. Remakes are weird things. Halloween, first of all, if you're going to remake a sacred film, you're treading on very touchy ground, difficult ground. If you're not faithful enough to the subject matter, you're going to get flayed, and if you don't do anything fresh and original, you're going to get flayed. So no matter what, Rob Zombie is walking into a difficult situation in directing Halloween. But again, you can't blame him either, because you can't get mad at Rob Zombie for directing Halloween, because anybody would jump at the chance, the opportunity to do such a thing. Now, here's where I'm going to go back to what I was saying before. Halloween, not a sacred cow. Okay, that's what I talk. There's some things that are sacrosanct to me. Halloween is not one of them. I always thought that Halloween was a one-note pony. It's a one-trick pony. It is a singular idea. It can be executed once, if that, and that's it. And maybe you include Halloween 2 in that, and that's it, man. How can you endlessly do Michael Myers? It just does not work. Those sequels are insufferable, and I know they're beloved treasures to horror fans out there. They're insufferable, man. So the idea of a guy like Rob Zombie coming off of Devil's Rejects and House of a Thousand Corpses, taking a stab at Halloween, that works for me. I'm like, okay, great. What do you got, Rob? I saw Rob Zombie once in concert. It was okay. I'm not a Rob Zombie fan. I don't listen to his music. I don't hate his music. I don't know it. But he has an intriguing aesthetic, and he does have, as Bob Rose always talks about, he has a voice. He has a singular voice. Okay, he does have a voice, and whether it comes off as, sometimes it feels a little disingenuous, because he's trying to. Sometimes I feel like Rob Zombie tries so hard to be like the horror Quentin Tarantino sometimes, and it just it comes off very sort of inauthentic, disingenuous. It doesn't always work. And but I have to say that I really like his Halloween remake. Now, to say just 2 words about the original, I always thought the original was like whatever. It was just such like a pedestrian. I know it was groundbreaking for the time. My Halloween is, I've said before, is Scream. Sidney Prescott is my Laurie Strode. And so Halloween doesn't really hold, like I said, it doesn't hold that special place in my heart. I always found it to be very pedestrian, very bland. It's just a generic slasher that takes place on Halloween. The last time I watched it, I saw it at the Alamo Draft House. I saw it they were doing a double feature with that and Halloween H2O in anticipation for the new Halloween movie that was coming out. The one directed by David Gordon Green in 2018. And when I watched it that time, I was like, okay, I think I understand this. Like the idea, the concept, the core concept of like this sort of bare bones $250,000 low budget horror film from 1978. It's just like, what if the boogeyman was real? What if there was no What if he was coming after you and there was no rhyme or reason to it, and he just never unrelenting? And I guess that kind of works, but nobody really has any. There's no real like nobody's character is fleshed out in the original. Maybe you don't need to have that. It's just Laurie Strode is Laurie Strode. She's a teenager, and Michael Myers is a killer, and Donald Pleasance is on the tail as Loomis. I shot him 6 times, 6 times. And then Rob Zombie, he's like, and then Michael Myers, like he's just they explain it. Donald Pleasance says it. He says there's nothing behind those eyes. He just pure evil. He's blank. He's just a blank person. There's nothing there. Rob Zombie's like, I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to sort of, I'm going to flesh out Michael Myers. I'm going to give him more of he sort of plugs him into a more of like, he plugs him into Americana, right? Like he gives Michael Myers this sort of serial killer, like your typical kind of American serial killer backstory, torturing animals and blah, blah, blah. And like sort of, and fleshes out the family. The mom becomes really important, obviously, because Sherry Moon plays the mom. And, there's this running joke about how Rob Zombie will cast Sherry Moon in anything. And like, whatever. I mean, she's fine. She's good. She's good. She's okay in it. I don't have a horse in that race. Some people are really offended, really upset that Sherry Moon is in all of Rob Zombie's films. Whatever. The movie kind of turns into a run of the mill slasher, but it's the origin story that makes Michael Myers more interesting. It gives him more agency than he does have in the original. And so for that, it works for me. The other thing that's interesting about Halloween, I guess, well, like I said, we're going to dovetail right into Halloween too. We might as well. Let's just do both together. Rob Zombie, he like every bit player in a Halloween movie is going to be some iconic character actor or B movie actor or horror actor from back in the day. So every single person that comes on the screen, you'd be like, oh my God, yeah, that guy or that guy or that. Oh, there's Danny Trejo. Oh, there's Ken Foree or that, what's her face? Dee Wallace. Like just everybody is somebody. And that's cool. I like that. I like that he does that. That's him trying to do his Quentin Tarantino thing. That's like the one thing that he does that's Quentin Tarantino-esque that's not really lame. This is what I had to say. Maybe it's because Halloween was never sacred to me, but this really is a pretty solid remake. When I think about the notion of anyone trying to remake Scream, I shudder at the impossibility. And that's true. I think it would be impossible to remake Scream. And I guess that's why some people feel that way about Halloween. But like, I think it's very easy to remake. And again, it's like, why do we have 9 sequels, man? We just don't need, like, who cares? Like, why so much? I mean, because it makes money, I guess. I don't know. The original is brilliant. Here's the thing. Here's the other thing I said, and going back to the original for a second. It's brilliant in its simplicity, and I guess it needs to be because Halloween is a paper thin concept, which is fine. But that becomes problematic when you try to flesh it out. And I think Rob Zombie does a serviceable job in his attempt, which at this point in my life leaves me indifferent. While in the past, I relished in going against the grain in my championing of this film. So like this time around, this was on this watch, I sort of thought less of it than I had previously. Previously, I was like, wow, this is great. Like, what's the problem? This is an improvement to the original. This builds on the original in a good way, whatever you want to call it. And then this time around, I was like, yeah. And it just kind of turns into a slasher. Oh, and by the way, it just kind of ends. Halloween just ends. It's trying to do like the 70s thing. You got Brad Dourif in there as the sheriff. There are a lot of, it's chock full. Danielle Harris, she's in some of the Halloween sequels. Just everybody is somebody in a Rob Zombie movie. Clint Howard is in there. William Forsythe is in there. You have Malcolm McDowell, of course, as Loomis. He's great as Loomis. I like his Loomis a lot. And then it's interesting because so Halloween 2 is not, you can't consider Halloween 2 to be a remake of Halloween 2. Okay. It's not a remake of Halloween 2. Halloween 2 is a sequel to a remake. That's the way to think about it, in my opinion, at least. So I don't think of Halloween 2 as like this continuing down this lineage of remaking. It's not. That's not how it works. In Halloween 2, Laurie Strode struggles to come to terms with her brother Michael's deadly return to Haddonfield, Illinois. Meanwhile, Michael prepares for another reunion with his sister. So Laurie finds out in the sequel that she is Michael Myers' sister, which is what happens in the original as well. The in the first one, in Rob Zombie's Halloween, it's alluded to. It's projected to us that they're siblings, but she doesn't figure it out in time. He shows her a photograph. And Halloween, the original Halloween, Rob Zombie's Halloween leaves you asking a question of like, so why does Michael Myers like want Laurie Strode? Like, why? Like, actually, why? Like, what's the reason behind it? And he kind of, it kind of works as like a perfect little duology. Like he sets it up as like kind of like a 1-2 punch, He's gravitating towards his sister, and we don't know why in Halloween, and then in Halloween 2, or maybe we should call it Halloween Volume 1 and Halloween Volume 2. In Halloween Volume 2, kill Mike, right? In Halloween Volume 2, we get this, things get really surreal. We get these weird dream sequences, and Michael Myers, Rob Zombie is like, he's like giving us like the white horse symbolizes blue. It's like, dude, just like, you don't have to tell us. Like, it's obviously meant to be like a dream symbol. Let us figure it out. Like, don't spoon feed us what the goddamn symbol is in the opening thing and then go into, just let it be. Let it hang in the air. So the mom is like, the mom is back. Sherry Moon Zombie is back as like an apparitional hallucination seen by both Michael as well as Laurie later on. Michael, it seems that like Michael's development, it's revealed that Michael's development really stopped at that age when he murdered his older sister, in the clown mask and the mask and whatnot. He puts on the mask because there's nothing there or whatever. And so like there's like this projection of Michael that still kind of exists, like his psyche. And I thought Rob Zombie, like this to me, I'm like, okay, here's the most interesting part of the Michael Myers mythos is getting like hashed out. Like it grates. It's great. It works, man. I'm like, cool. Like we're actually getting somewhere with this, and so it's kind of like, what is the motivation, right? What ends up being the motivation? The motivation kind of gets revealed in the sense that the mom is the one that's telling Michael to get Laurie so that they can be reunited as a family. And that kind of also plays up the mama boy aspect and gives agency to Michael Myers even more, So now, if you're going to have like the paper thin, no motive that's in the original Halloween, that works for the first movie one time, right? It's a standalone film and it works as a standalone film in that way. If you're going to keep coming back to this Michael Myers character, you got to reveal to us the agency, and they do that. Zombie does it. He does it in a great way. Oh, so it's the mom is driving all of this. The mom wants them to be reunited as a family, at least in the psychosis of Michael, whose whole family is kind of splintered by his actions, right? Rob Zombie pays homage to the hospital that's in the original Halloween too. So it's like not a remake, but he does pay homage to it a little bit. And I really like, it's kind of a red herring. It's like so we get this whole hospital montage that turns out to just be a really bad dream that Laurie has from suffering from her PTSD. It's a year later, turns out to be a year later. She's survived. Daniel Harris's characters survived. They got scars. She lives with Brad Dourif, the sheriff. Loomis has gone Hollywood, and he's a D-bag, right? Loomis has gone Hollywood, and he's written a book. He's basically gone Gale Weathers, which is kind of rich considering it's like, dude, you're making a Dimension movie, the same studio that released the Scream movies, and it's like that's Gale Weathers' bag, is that she's like, that she's gone Hollywood and whatnot. So I kind of thought that was a little goofy. And then Loomis does have a redemption arc at the end. He feels guilty. He needs to repent, and he does so by trying to draw Michael out. He ends up getting killed in the process, and that really worked for me. I thought that was a effective arc because Loomis kind of turns into a comedic relief in Halloween 2. I was wondering, Margot Kidder, she plays the therapist, and something she says makes me wonder if this was a missed opportunity, where Margot says to Laurie Strode, she goes, "Listen, Michael Myers is living in your mind. He's alive in your mind." So it kind of turns into like a hallucinatory. That could be another way to do the hallucination thing. Michael Myers is dead after the first movie, and that this movie is an aftershock movie where, people are dying around Laurie. How is it? And, and then Loomis has to try and stop Laurie. The whole illusion drops, and, she finds the missing body of Michael Myers in the finale, but she was the one who killed him, or that he had actually died, and that this whole time she's just been seeing a projection of him as she's killing people herself. That would have been that's been done before. That is not a unique thing, but that would have been interesting. That would have been an interesting way to sort of approach it. Kind of like the high tension from the new French Extremity, for those who are familiar with that. Her quote is, "He's living in your mind and your heart and your emotions." I was like, that's pretty cool, actually. So it's like she is running away from her mind, and she's killing people in the process and not realizing that she's doing it. That could have worked. That could have worked. Additionally, this movie is full of, people that feel real. They don't feel like, they're not like Hollywood pretty people like what you see in Scream. Actually, like, everybody feels really lived in, and that kind of adds an element of reality to Rob Zombie's world. Additionally, Rob is a vegan, and so I find it interesting that, it's almost like the amount of the violence against animals, the violence against people, it's all sort of, this is the thing that Rob Zombie finds most horrifying as a vegan in real life, right? And he's like he's kind of exploring those fears, maybe. So yeah, I don't know. I love the black and white dream dinner table scene. Rob Zombie, he made another movie called Lords of Salem, and he had some weird dream sequences in that, from what I remember. And I feel like he got his start kind of playing around. Was that movie which came first? Actually, maybe Halloween 2 didn't come first, but it works. It's kind of funny to me also how Michael Myers he's doing like the Bruce Banner from the Incredible Hulk TV show, walking down the side of the road is like kind of like a drifter. It's pretty funny, actually. Hollywood Loomis says, "You got to sell the sizzle and not the steak." So, and he also says something interesting. Bad taste is the American dream. I kind of agree with that. So yeah, I don't know. What else? I loved at the very, very end, you have the three girls after she finds out the truth because she reads Loomis's book, right? She finds out that she's actually a Myers, and they go to the barn. They go to a dance, and they're dressed in Rocky Horror, and it's great. I love the Rocky Horror costumes. Totally works, and it ends in this farmhouse, and Michael Myers, he just he gets killed by Laurie, and it just kind of ends, and it's fine. It's a serviceable ending. Again, it would have been a very interesting reveal had they did go that route where, you know, she's kind of projecting Michael Myers, that he's not really there. Like, that would have been cool. That would have been a cool twist to the whole thing. So you have Michael Myers in one and Laurie Strode in the second. And they never made a third Halloween, and they didn't need to, man. It works as a duology. So I guess that's all I have to say about that.